Hey guys, I'm Maksi and I'm at STEM Studios and I'm going to show you how I start a track. See how things go, eh? When I start a tune, it really depends on if I've got an initial idea. Right now I've got like a little bit of a bass melody in my head, but apart from that, I've not got a full-fledged idea, so I think it's just going to be a wing it job and see what goes. I'll start on my drums. I am a drummer, so it kind of makes sense. What I like to use is something called Zitala. It's like a free, like a sampler plugin, which is really simple, really. So I've got a kick. I think maybe the kick's a little bit got too much of a bassy tail, so I'll knock some off. Look at the simplicity, it's amazing. Yeah, so I'll start with a kick, yeah. I like to draw my kicks in, and the reason being is because I like it to be the same velocity. I think when you've got the main element of a track needs, especially for a kick, if it's the main pulse, you don't want the velocity to be, you know, here, there and everywhere. You want it to be consistent all the way through. That's what I'm going to do. Yeah, so we've got a kick there now, and we can then loop this a few times. What I've also got here as well is the same kick, yeah, just a little clicky kick basically. And what I like to do is I copy and paste the same kick, and then I add a bit of overdrive onto it just to kind of give it a bit more separation so you don't have as much phasing issues. So, got a kick, that's our starting point. And then I've got, yeah, so I like to use Serum, and the reason being is because I was always a big dubstep head back in the day, so I made a lot of my own sounds, particularly in NI Massive, and then dove to Serum in more recent times. I'd probably say the past 2 or 3 years. But I used to be a bit of a producer snob, you could say, because I was always like, yeah, but all they've used is like they've used like presets and stuff. But I think, you know, back in 80s, pre-80s, all the synthesizers, everyone were using the same sounds. It was always the same sort of presets and stuff. So I kind of got over that little bit of, you know, nonsense really, and realized that I want to focus more on the production side of things and not just spending hours and hours and hours tweaking filters and LFOs and wavetables and all that. So yeah, I've got a sound here I made quite some time ago. Nice little plucky sound there. To leave a little bit of space and to save the hassle of having to do sidechain compression, I use this Nicky Romero. It's like an LFO type plugin. You can kind of change like the shape of it and stuff to kind of give the kick a little bit of space. So okay, so record that in. In fact, let's put low latency mode on so it's gonna be a bit more accurate. Yeah, and then what I like to do on pretty much all my grooves and basses and melodies, not all but most, is add some swinging. A little bit of 16 swing C, yeah, sometimes a bit more severe depending if it's a bit more garage orientated and whatnot, but I like a bit of C. Who doesn't like C? And then it's obviously a triplet, isn't it, here, so let's triple it up. Nice, okay, so next, got some tappy hats. And I like to play these in, so and I tend to keep the velocity as well. Let's see what comes to mind. It's normally just a bit of a winged job, really. Yep, let's quantize these, so swingy. Not like that though. Same thing again. Bit of swing C. Alright, next up then. Let's get in the main offbeat hat. Let's see what comes up. That's pretty nice to be fair. She's on there. Boom. Will this work? Keeps doing this. I'm not sure why it keeps cancelling the same thing out. You have to drag it over here instead. How silly. There we go. Okay, nice. Let's go back into the project. Where's Logic? Over here. Okay. Same thing again. Beautiful. Definitely want the same velocity for them ones, I would say. Just go to function, MIDI transform, fix velocity. There we go. Ring a ding a do. Copy paste across. Bring in a little bit of clap. Who doesn't like clap? And that's actually just gave me another idea as well, just doing that. It's all about happy accidents. You play something, it just triggers another idea in your head. Nice. Yeah. And it's about as well, like, you know, you chuck all these different ideas together. Obviously there's absolutely no structure so far, it's just a block of different things, but you build everything. Well, this is what I do anyway. I build a lot of the main ideas, the main elements, and then I'll start to strip it back. Now, as I say, it's not always this way that I approach it. I sometimes might have an initial idea, it might be a synth I find, and I might come up with some sort of melody, and then I build the idea around that. But obviously right now it's just been, you know, see what happens on the spot sort of thing, and this is what's coming up so far, so beautiful. Play low for now. Yeah. I reckon now let's bring in a shaker, a little bit of a shaker. Yeah, so I don't tend to use too many loops really. I like things for extra textures essentially, and I think, like, you know, unless you're recording in your own shaker, this is, you know, the other alternative, I suppose.
I'll see what happens.
Nice. Yeah, so obviously now that's not in swing, so what I tend to do is put flex time on. Yep, and then I will quantize it to the same swing. Yeah. That's interfering a bit too much now, so what I'll now do, that's the offbeat. That's actually laid beat properly, yeah. Offbeat hat, and then I will sidechain the hat to that particular thing. Now, at the moment, I'm not spending as much time on the EQing thing. At home, I would spend a bit more time on, bit by bit, I'm kind of mixing as I go along. You know, taking out lower frequencies, just really basic sort of mixing stuff, so it kind of sounds relatively good from the offset, but I kind of want to just kind of get the idea down. That's what I'm vibing on. Go with the vibe. Oh yeah, so going to the sidechain, I find for whatever reason, if I use any other third-party plugin and I'm using sidechain, it doesn't really have the effect I'm looking for. It seems to be a bit glitchy, so I tend to do a lot of the stock plugins. I use FET. Vintage FET, because it's quite, is that right actually? Yeah, because it's quite a quick reactive compressor. So let's go to instruments and we'll go offbeat hats. Yes, turn off that. So now every single time that hat is triggered, it will duck the shaker. Don't interfere too much. Look at that. Nice. Beautiful. Okay, so we need some sort of synth now, don't we? And then we can start to build a bit of structure once I get that, like a pedal note type synth or pluck. What is the sound going to be? I feel like when it comes to writing music, one of the longest processes is actually sound selection. That can be the trickiest part, especially under pressure with the camera facing towards you. Oh. Change that at some point, but we'll as a initial idea. Okay. The sounds might be better than this, maybe. So now I'm going to duplicate everything and start to strip some ideas back and see what comes up. Okay, so this is definitely me just doing, it's like muscle memory right now, so you can kind of see a bit of what I might do. Now, I created a Reese quite some time ago, so let me find it quickly. if I organise things much better, here we go. Filthy Reese. Now this is like way too much, yeah? So what I now do is I'll go back into it and I'll take off the distortion and the reverb, and then I'll pull down the cut off. Looks nice. Beautiful. Oh baby. So yeah, just going back to the Reese bass, recorded the Reese bass in predominantly on the E note, but then as it kind of starts to get closer to the end of the intro, let's say, and we get the snare rolls in, I've started to kind of like, I suppose, develop the melody a little bit more. So have a little listen in conjunction with the pluck. And at this stage now, all I want to do is change the whole idea, which is definitely something I do at home as well. Start with an idea, and I'm like, I'm not quite vibing right now. I'll switch up the bass line, but let's see where this idea goes. So obviously introducing stuff now. And I'll probably bring in some sort of counter melody or some sort of counter. Kind of following along with that. Sony. Bringing the snare build. Now the snare build, I've used like a pretty typical 909. I feel like there's not that many snares out there that do a snare build up as well as a typical 909 type snare. They've just got that extra bit of, I suppose, yeah, they've got the white noise on top of that. It's great for just kind of, I suppose, let's say it starts off with being really short and tight, yeah? Probably a bit too short really, but then what I can do is even automate that so it gradually starts to open up the sample bit by bit. So let's try that. Let's see what happens here. So we'll go to the Sitala in its shape. Yeah. And then I think it's going to go, should we see which direction it goes actually? Yeah, it's the right way, yeah. So as it gets closer to the build, the end of the build, it starts to open up. I've also, this is probably kind of cheating, this is like a very cheating type plugin because this is like a filter and it's reverb and other bits and bobs all in one. But yeah, so I've added that on to the end of the snare build, just here. And then tail it off so the reverb doesn't cut into the drop. Also done the same thing on this as well. And that drop is dead. But you get the general idea. I'm actually half tempted to change the bass melody. But yeah, that's kind of the whole build up so far. So yeah, I'll probably start to bring in some extra elements like, you know, especially more drums. Gradually building in extra drums. Sounds super basic because it's not glued together yet. Everything sounds very separate. Yeah, and then go to a little bit where you build in and introduce a new section. So maybe I'll even, let's say I'll bounce this little idea down here into an audio file, drag it across, and now I can probably filter that off, high pass and a low pass, and gradually introduce that in with some V-reverb. Let's add a bit of reverb on. I like to use the Valhalla reverb as well. It seems like a pretty in industry standard type plugin now. Yeah, what am I doing here? So let us automate. So I'll do that so it gradually opens up. Wrong one. Suede. Bring it all the way down, and we'll gradually introduce some top end as it gets closer to the introductory. So I'm not switching this up, have I? So I'll bring that down again. Yeah, boy. Okay, so I've just found these two samples here because I think I might have just panicked and started making this project, but normally I'd actually probably find some point of influence which could be a vocal. Now I found this, and I've kind of naturally found this because it kind of feels, well, not even feel like it is in the same key as the project, so I'm probably just going to chuck these in quickly and then just probably just re-scramble this whole project into something slightly different now. So what I'm actually going to do now is just get rid of all this. And then we're going to see, right, I reckon I can get something pretty quick together, we'll see. Kicks over.
Kiss like that.
See, now it's not the right sounding kick for me. It's just a bit. Let's go back in kicks again. Yeah. Let's go to E again. Everyone likes an E. Okay. I'll take off some of that again. I want like a tom now as well. Bring it down here. I'll definitely draw this one in. Get on. Maybe there. Did that. Yeah, boy. Some tappy hats over there. It sounds in the off hat now. Let's see how this goes then. Yeah, claps as well. Give me them. And again as well.
I give it a kiss.
Okay, there's that little idea then.
Kiss like this. Kiss like. Kiss like.
This. Maybe that one there, is it? This.
This.
Go away.
This.
This. This. This. Yeah, boy.
I give it a kiss. Kiss like. This.
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 And then again.
Kiss like.
Give some grit as well. So I've not said anything in a while, I'm just trying to get in the zone here. Right, it's like it turned out to.
Kiss like.
What I love about distortion is, and even saturation as well, I did a video on this some time ago actually, is if you're looking for extra headroom but you still want the kind of like perceivable volume, if you put even like a little bit of saturation onto your drums or onto anything really, it reduces down the actual the decibels on it, but the perceived loudness is still the same. So if you can even see the screen there, if I take this off, yeah, obviously it's adding in more harmonic content, so it's going to sound naturally louder, but as soon as I add this overdrive on now, the volume, yeah, there you go. So it's a bit more level, it kind of squares it off, so you've got more control over the volume, and also it tends to give you more headroom as well.
Kiss like.
See, I prefer that idea now. That sounds better. Okay. And then that's where we can come with like the main sort of like synth idea just there. Whatever that may be right now, I do not know. Right, so these vocals that I've chosen, I've kind of, you know, started off like I showed you earlier on with
Kiss like this. Kiss
like the tom rhythm.
Kiss like this.
Yeah, and now I've included a little snippet of the other vocal sample, which is, I'll take off the processing so far, which is this here.
Kiss like.
Yeah, So I added an EQ to make it sound almost like it's a phone. Yeah, so taking out the low end predominantly. Put on, this is called has effect. So has effect is when the sound hits one ear before the other, and it gives this like perceivable wideness. Yeah, which obviously over this you won't be able to tell, but that sounds now a little bit wider, and it'll kind of separate a little bit between the more central vocal of the main vocal essentially. Yeah, like just so like I'm not bringing in all the low end straight away. The low end obviously feels like a drop, and yes, I'm just taking out the low end off the kick in the intro just so it feels a bit more like an intro and not a drop. Yeah, because straight away that feels much better to me now. Right, and then there needs to be at least something on that drop, and I don't think it's a hat that needs to be there. So I reckon some sort of like tss at the start, tss, just to emphasize that initial hit. Now, maybe that can go in on the intro there. Nice. That can be like a little effect goes in as well. A little bit of ear candy they call it. Nah. It's kind of that, but it needs to be longer than that. That might do. It's not quite what I'm looking for. Now we've got a bomb being bombarded with effects now. And then pump there. Yeah, maybe. What does that sound like? Dum, da 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 da. It's on the offbeat, I think maybe. But it's back to 16. Yeah, boy. See, at the moment, I'm just trying to add in some extra effects in there just to fill the track out at the moment. Not as like a prominent or the main bits, but just something just to kind of. It's always good to have little transitions in between sections, because sometimes, obviously, with it being a computer project. And it is very blocky, you want it to sound less blocky, and having like a little bit of white noise and whatnot to kind of transition in between each section just smooths it out. It's like sanding down a rough edge. So obviously that sounds too stoppy starty, so then we need something to go into that. So maybe we need like a reverse type deal, like a reverse inbox. That needs to go in at some point as well. It's nice. FX again. In fact, mate, I'll type in crash actually. Yeah, boy. Yep, so it could be something like that. Maybe. Don't bank on it. And then chop off that bit there. Yeah, boy. Maybe even our favourite plugin, Mr. Tremolo. 16th notes. Hey, very nice. And then maybe we can have a little bit of pump on there. Yeah. Yeah, boy. Okay. That can be some of there as well.
While you're listening to it.
And then we'll so I'm just going to piece everything together now. I'm going to get these over there as well. That's going to go there, is it? That might work then actually. Let's try it now. Stop that first. Yeah, it stopped. Beautiful. That's the transition I don't like right there. It's a bit of an odd place. Yeah, it's definitely an odd place. It needs to be there. Let's see if we can hear it now. Okay, cool. Obviously, we need something else as well to kind of help it build up, like some sort of plucky something. And that's how it's turned off. Isn't it? And that needs to be turned down. So I'm mixing the volumes now. And then that needs to be continued as well. Duplicate. Back over there. Copy and paste that over. And then I think we need some extra offbeat hats. Something with a bit more oomph. I mean, even sometimes I tend to layer my offbeat, so I'll have like something pan left, something pan right, and then like the main one in the middle. It just depends on what's going on, really. And that, I suppose, what we're talking about earlier on, like that's when I might go back to my drums just to add extra layers in, because it might just sound a bit thin. Because right now it still feels very thin. So it's all about the subtleties, but. So let's maybe do a ride or something, or an extra hat. Let's see what sounds good. Oh yeah, it's got to be playing on it. Let's try that. Oh boy, I'm going to stop it again. Yeah, boy, and then... So let's have a little breakdown of what I've done kind of recently. So let's start with the bass. To get a proper, I normally find anyway, a very professional sound, or a much more professional sound, it's all about layering with most things. So like even with your drums, with your basses, having different things for a certain reason. So for example, I've got the lower half of the bass here. Yeah, so I think I've actually taken out the low end for some reason. Must have been by accident. Yeah. Yeah, and then sometimes you might want to have like mid basses. I'd obviously spend a bit more time on this if I was by myself. And then sometimes having like a top bass as well. That was definitely meant to be that. It says top bass, doesn't it? Idiot. There we go. So that's my top bass there. That's to kind of give it a bit more presence in the mix. So it kind of cuts through, because sometimes, you know, if you want like a little bit more of a pluck, for example, this is sort of the method you want to use, is, yeah, having like an extra layer. That's like the top section. Here's a low section. Without. Sounds quite muffly. Yeah, with. Just gives it a bit more presence in the mix altogether. Yep. In terms of in this project, there's not actually that much going on with regards to anything so far. There'd be normally much more layering with the percussion, just to kind of add just texture. That's a favourite word today, texture. We've got like extra snares. Just keep the groove going. Everything together. Yep, and then some extra layering in terms of the ride on top. Just keeps it pumping. Yep. So should we have a little breakdown of what it sounds like so far? Yeah. Let's go. It still needs some extra pluck or something to keep the interest going through. Some sort of like pedal note or something. That was it, right? So yeah, before I continue, here's my sporadic mind going off. I've bounced down the bass, just like the pluck bass essentially, and put it into its own little audio file here. And it's just giving a teaser of what to expect in the drop. So as you can see here, I've got the audio file. I've taken out the low end. Yeah, and then put some reverb on. Valhalla reverb. It normally has the low end on. I like to take the low end out because it tends to sound a little bit muddy and a bit dirty. I don't want the mix all the way up, because what that does is it kind of sends the rhythm out of time. So I'll pull down the mix. It's just a bit of sort of reverb, so it kind of fits more in the background rather than in the foreground. I lose my words now. Spoke too much today. In fact, before we continue, right, I'm going to actually add something else in just here, because we love a build. Let's add in some Endless Smile, the cheap plugin. Automate it up so we're gradually getting further into the distance, so it feels more like a drop as well, or it's building towards a drop. Intensity, turn it up. Yeah, let's bring it up. Trial. So that bit actually needs to be no reverb, 100%. So quick listen to it. Wait a minute, let's take out that bit there. We had like a slight issue with crashing of the project for some reason. One of the Satala plugins were just not having it. Maybe keep it going actually, yeah. Okay. There needs to be more rises happening, but it's, you know, we're running out of time now. So from the top.
Kiss like this, 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 kiss like this. This lollipop is popping, you wanna give it a kiss. Kiss like this. Kiss like I'm all kinds of bad when I drop on the beat. Taking down my hair, got your eyes on me. You need it, you want it, but can you handle this? This lollipop is popping, you wanna give it a kiss,
And that's all we've got so far, guys. Hey, hope you enjoyed. And it's been an absolute pleasure. It's a very different ball game when you're trying to make music in front of a camera. It's kind of my first experience doing this, so but it's a learning curve. I hope you enjoyed and picked up a few little tips, and I certainly have, so thank you. Yeah, boy. And I'll see you next time. Enjoy.